Hello everybody. This is the Reflexology Certification Program with Karen making funny faces behind the camera. And we are in our muscular system weekend, and we are going to outline some of the reflexes that we look for and work during a normal reflexology session. So let's wave to everybody who is watching. Oh my goodness, you guys are so funny. Okay, and now let's zoom into the feet and start walking. So the first thing that we're going to outline is the lateral surface of the calcaneus, the hip, which is the lateral malleolus, and then the cuboid notch, which represents all of the muscles of the low body. And so we're going to start with a finger walk technique in order to rock our pressure into those glute muscles. And we do this by keeping the thumb for leverage on the low back muscles, which is that medial arch, and then use our wrist to curl our fingers into that glute muscle space, which is just that entire lateral surface of the calcaneus. Great for anybody who's having trouble with sciatica or a chronic pain in the butt. And that's how we access those glute muscles. And the texture of this space on the foot really tells you a lot about how tight those muscles of the hips are. And then when we're at the top of those glute muscle reflexes, I have the opportunity to start walking around the lateral malleolus. And we're not on the bone, that ankle bone, but instead we're walking around it. And we're accessing those three surfaces of the hips, the posterior surface, the inferior surface, and the anterior surface with our pressure. And we're also going to combine a little bit of ankle rotation in order to fold the reflexes onto my pressure. And what we're doing here is, if these are the glutes, then these three surfaces of the malleolus are where the glutes attach. And that would be the attachment for the glute max at the posterior lateral malleolus, the attachment for the glute medius at the inferior surface of that lateral malleolus, and then the attachment for the glute minimus on that anterior surface of the lateral malleolus. And the way that we do that is we keep that same hand position with the thumb on the low back reflexes on the other side, and we apply that nice rotation of the ankle, and we fold those surfaces of the lateral malleolus onto our pressure. And we just walk all the way around. And you can do that a couple times, especially since this is a range of motion technique. It's very good for loosening up the ankle as well. Perfect. So that's our hips and glutes. And now we're going to focus on the cuboid notch. The cuboid notch, we're going to use a digital palpation or more finger walking with a little bit of cream. And we're going to outline the three muscle groups of the low body in this cuboid notch. So we have the proximal head of the fifth metatarsal, and that's our knee. That's our knee reflex. And then from this knee reflex, this point, we're going to go up the cuboid notch, and that represents the quadricep muscles. So tension or congestion along this band of tissue represents congestion along the front of the leg area. Then we go down the more proximal surface of that cuboid notch, and that represents the hamstrings or the back of the leg muscles. And then down across the bottom, or the plantar surface, represents all of those muscles of the calf, shins, and lower leg. And each one of these three surfaces will be more congested than the others based on where the tension falls in that low body. So again, we have the knee, quads, hamstrings, and calf and shin. And we just throw our chair all the way to the opposite direction, use all 4 digits to palpate this space, and we use a circular rotation with digital pressure along the 3 angles of this kind of triangle-shaped cuboid notch. Sound pretty simple? Good. We have some silent nods from the peanut gallery back here. Okay, perfect. So that's how we assess the lower leg muscles and how we walk through this cuboid notch area. Now let me have you zoom out so that we can get the kind of upper body reflexes. So in previous videos we've talked about the chest lung area, We've talked about the dorsal surface of this chest lung being the upper back muscle area. So we're not going to go over how to walk that because we've already done that. But just to review, that distal head of the 5th metatarsal and where that comes into the 5th digit's proximal phalanx is that shoulder joint area. So along that vertical zone, this is the shoulder. And all of that horizontal zone too, all that chest, lung, ball of the foot area represents all of the muscles in the upper body. So all of your traps, all of your rhomboids, all of your rotator cuff, all of your pec muscles, as well as muscles for breathing are all located in this ball of the foot, both plantar and dorsal. We also have all of the muscles in the head and neck in the toes. So we've already shown how to walk the toes as well, but just to review, that walking the toes accesses all of the muscles in that head and neck area. So now we'll have Rosemary come on the other side of me and we'll walk the spine. So the spine is the other major muscle group that we're going to focus on in this video. And we start with the sacral reflexes, which is everything from that most proximal surface of the heel to the pelvic guideline right as the heel ends. Then we go from the pelvic guideline to the proximal head of the first metatarsal, that's low back, and then that proximal head of the first metatarsal to the distal head is thoracic. And then we're going to walk all the way up to the cervical reflexes, which are that medial surface of the hallux, the big toe. And we do that by cupping the heel, starting at the sacral reflexes, letting all 4 digits come to that medial surface of the calcaneus, maybe putting a hand on the foot for leverage, and just to kind of give comfort to your client, we're going to use that same wrist rocking to get those fingers into that medial surface of the calcaneus. You should see the scene of the students trying to do what I'm doing behind the camera. They're absolutely hilarious. But let's get back to work. So we're walking and rocking at the same time up those sacral reflexes, but when we get far enough to where our fingers can't reach, we have to shift our leverage, and that comes right at that low back area. So we're going to switch hands, and our thumb's going to take over from here. So fingers are on the lateral side of the calcaneus, and we're going to thumb walk up those low back reflexes, which is all the way from the pelvic guideline to the proximal head of the first metatarsal, but then my thumb can't reach anymore, so I have to shift my leverage again to access those thoracic reflexes. And these are just all the muscles of the spine, all those erector muscles. If anybody's having back spasms, these are the parts of the foot that you want to address to make sure that those muscles calm down. Then we transition into those cervical areas, walking over the bunion area. If somebody does have a bunion, walk lighter over this area, but we just walk all the way with that same thumb walk, all the way up to the base of that cervical spine. And that is how we walk the major muscle reflexes. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. We'll be back next month with the cardiovascular system, talking about how to walk the reflexes of the heart. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe, like us on Facebook, as well as if you're interested in Reflexology Certification in Tampa, join us. We'd love to make you part of the family.